Hi, my name is Grace, and this is my portfolio review. Ooh. Do I have to click that, or can I click this one? Okay. Okay, so I came into Berry as a dual degree engineering major, but I quickly found out that at the time engineering wasn't really for me, and so I am currently a creative technologies and environmental science double major with a math minor. And so um, I ended up getting into creative technologies pretty early. I received this email a couple weeks prior to coming to Berry my freshman year, and I was in a class that I wasn't particularly interested in, and I saw this one, and I just knew like I had to take it. It looked so cool. Why wouldn't I? And so I ended up taking this 101 course with Chris. It was the one and only one that he taught, and ever since then I've worked as a lab assistant. I've been a summer lab assistant, and I've been the student lab director for the past 2 years. I've also helped Chris and Zane TA both classes for both of them, and so I kind of just dove in headfirst, and I've enjoyed everything I've been doing. And so as well as being a creative technologies major, I've also been doing environmental science, and so a lot of my projects that have made for creative technologies have been environmentally focused, and so my theme um, for my portfolio is uncovering the narrative of the surrounding environment through sensor data. And so, what I've just been trying to figure out or like find throughout my projects is how we can tell stories through using sensors to evaluate the environment, either outside or inside, and just everywhere around us. And so, my first project that I'm going to talk about is a laser gas detection, or that. And so, I worked on this project for CRT 399, which is an intermediate class in the Creative Technologies catalog. And I was tasked with creating an environmental sensor, and I worked with a partner, Heather Kobeck. She graduated last year, and together we um, were tasked with finding a location here at Berry to place our environmental sensors to collect data and tell a story from it. And so after working as a summer lab assistant, we move equipment around the lab all the time, and the summer prior we had moved the laser cutter around and changed the ventilation system that we had been working on. And so what we did is a two-part study. It was a 7-day long study, and so we created a sensor that we placed inside the laser and outside the laser that consisted of a carbon monoxide sensor as well as a particle sensor, and we wanted to see the um, the carbon monoxide levels and particle levels that the laser was emitting, and then what was being vented out, and then whenever we opened the lid, what was being kind of like pushed into like the lab assistant space that were like right there working. And so yeah, so we placed our sensor for the first part of the study inside the laser underneath it, and right here, you can kind of see it, that silver tubing. It's located right here, and there's a vent system that goes under the laser, and or to the side of the laser that sucks out any of the carbon monoxide particles or other particles. And so yeah, we did the one on the outside and then one on the inside, and to do this, we created a device that, like I said earlier, consisted of a carbon monoxide sensor as well as a particle sensor. We placed it on a PCB with an ESP32, and we used the ESP32 to wirelessly send data to a database that we had created that we later used to pull data from to create a website. And so we put our sensors on a PCB and then put it within a closure and put it at our study location. And so we then used the results that we found and put it on a website that we created together, and we were able to tell that there was a noticeable difference between the amount of carbon dioxide and particles that were within the laser rather than the one that was out, which is what we would want to find because that would tell us that the vent system was working. But we did, after talking to Thomas Shipman over in Mac, he was able to tell us like safe OSHA levels for being indoors versus outdoors, and all of our levels were completely under the safe limits. But we did find that if you leave the laser closed for about 10 to 15 seconds after the cut, it would allow any excess like carbon monoxide or particles that were hovering kind of around the cut to be vented out. And so then we displayed our findings on a website, and then as well on. For my second project, I did a light study project where I used a photoresistor, and this was also in CRT 399, and this was a project that we did before the laser detector study, but this was individual, and the main goal in 399 is to collect environmental data and then be able to display our findings in a meaningful way. And so I used the light study as an opportunity to collect data within my townhouse. So I designed a PCB that consisted of an ESP32, a battery, a photoresistor, and a regular resistor. And the ESP, similar to the previous project, just sent data to a database that we later use on a website to display our findings, or my findings. And so, yeah, we created a PCB as well as an enclosure. And so, yeah, for my study space, I wanted to look at the plants that were located within my townhouse. I wanted to see the plants on the windowsill, like how much natural light they were receiving. And so these are two pictures of just my study location. This is on the windowsill during the daytime, and this is over there is on the windowsill at nighttime. And so I did this over Mountain Day weekend last year, and it was like sunny Friday and Saturday, and then I think Sunday it was raining. But I did find that even though it had been raining, that the plants were still getting a noticeable amount of light exposure, like natural light exposure. And so right here, it looks like it's unplugged, but it's not. It's actually connected to a wall outlet right here, just because I didn't want to worry about any battery issues. But yeah, so I did this two-part study, and then I also displayed, similar to the 399 assignment, I also displayed these findings on a website that I created. So my next project, and my last one for my team, I talked about, I was selected for a study abroad in Norway. That was the Creative Technologies 350 course, and we were tasked with creating an educational technologies that we would, over the summer, during a 2-week program, we would go to 2 different schools and teach different groups of Norwegian students about environmental technologies, and that was like our overall group theme. So we all created projects that went along with like an environmental technology. And so as an environmental science major, I'm really interested in our environmental impact and everything. And so I wanted to teach them about the greenhouse effect. And so I created a simulation that consisted of a glass bowl and a candle, essentially. And so the bowl represented the atmosphere, and then right down this the wood was just like the earth, and then there was a candle in the middle that was representing our carbon dioxide levels. And so what I had the students do is at the beginning of the simulation, I would have them feel around the bowl to feel the temperature, and they would tell me if it was like cool, warm, or what. And so then I would light the candle underneath the bowl, and then wait a few minutes and let them touch the bowl a little bit later, and they would tell me if it had gotten warmer, gotten colder, whatever. And so most of all the times whenever they felt the bowl, it was noticeably warmer. And so along with this physical aspect of this project, there was also a visual. So right there, that little device is something that I also created that went along with this project. It was a temperature sensor and a carbon dioxide sensor that I placed on a PCB, a PCB along with an Arduino Nano, and I use handshaking to collect data from the carbon dioxide and temperature system sensor, and use processing to create a graph so the students could, as they were feeling the bowl, they could also watch the carbon dioxide levels and temperature levels increase. And so they would just stand like around this table, and then I would present this to them. And so along with like all the environmental work that I do, that I've been trying to do my projects around, I'm also on the swim team, and I've done a lot of work with sensors in the past 2 years, and so I decided to go along with that, and I kept using sensors for, oh, never mind, okay, back to this page, sorry. So the students, while they were doing the simulation, they also filled out this worksheet, and they would just fill out the chart as they watched the graph go up, and then I would ask them like what they thought made the temperature rise, like what within the simulation that I made the temperature rise, and then they would look at this picture and then try to correlate what we were using to what like is actually happening. So now my capstone project. So yeah, I'm on the swim team, and I am one big thing recently this year. We got a new swim coach, and she is really interested in heart rates. She's always by the pool asking people like, "Get your heart rates. What is your heart rate?" All the time. She'll go down the pool, ask everyone, and if someone's too high, she'll say, "Well, why is it? Like, what'd you do yesterday? What'd you do? How'd you sleep or something?" And so I was interested in helping her instead of rather like taking time out of the practice to go down the row and ask everyone what their heart rates were. Instead, I wanted to create a live heart rate tracker that would be able to track the heart rate of the whole group at once. And so I called it Hybrid Pulse. And so I use a Fitbit smartwatch to collect data from individual swimmers, and then I use the Fitbit API to use the Fitbit application to communicate with the program that I was working on. And so this is like one of my testers, and then also on the Fitbit app on your phone, there's a live heart rate reading that like they were swimming, and then I was watching that update as well as on my website to be sure it was correct. And so I created this website that's useful for the swim coach to be able to track groups of swimmers. And so on this website, they're able to put swimmers in the designated groups like sprint, mid distance, distance, as well as see individual data and group data. And so the group data is displayed on this dashboard setting, and it would have each of the individual groups as well as each individual swimmer. And in these locations, down in like the bottom right-hand corners of each of the boxes, that would be where the heart rates would be updating. And then later, if a coach wanted to, they could go into the individual heart data and sleep data, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And so this is like the color chart that swim coaches use to assess the performances during the practice. And so when a coach would be using this at a pool, it would have like all the swimmers, and all these bars would be different colors depending on what kind of practice or workout they would be doing. So for sprint group, they're doing like a light aerobic set, and everyone's within the heart rate threshold, so they're good. But for like mid distance group and distance, we're all doing if we were doing all like a hard aerobic, it would flag. She'd be able to notice the difference in the color of that one athlete that's rung in, and she'd be able to just like talk to that person in time at the time, instead of stopping like the whole group and figuring out what was wrong then. Because then by the time you stop the whole group, the heart rate's gone down, and then there's like no point. So yeah, so then from these individual icons on the dashboard view, the coach could go into like heart data, sleep data for the individual swimmers, and this would just give the coaches like a live time series graph of each individual swimmer. They could see the individual swimmers' heart rates during a practice and in the past, as well as their sleep information, which is something I haven't talked a lot about, but it was kind of like a secondary part of this project, is that also, along with the Fitbit API, you could also look at sleep information as well as the heart data. And so I talked to our coach about what else would be important, and she said the sleep information, because whenever athletes are swimming, if they have like a high heart rate or a low heart rate, then maybe they can you can tell like if they were didn't get a good enough sleep or got too much sleep like the night before. It would tell us about like their heart rates. And so so that was mainly my capstone project. And from there, I plan from working on all these environmental technology stuff. Like I said in the beginning, I had planned to be a dual degree engineering student, but that just wasn't what I wanted to do at the time. But I've really enjoyed what I've done here, and I plan on continuing doing engineering now. And I'm getting my master's at Georgia Tech in environmental engineering, which is just working with pollution controls and sustainable development with respect to like Earth's natural resources and everything. And so, yeah, small something.